We're fighting the Americans in the pocketbook. We have retaliatory tariffs on them. We just hit them again in the auto sector. We're fighting them on Fox News, which is what they understand. We're sending Doug Ford onto Fox News to show them that we're not messing around up here. And we're going to send Danielle next. Maybe we won't send her. Maybe we'll send Danielle. No, maybe we won't. We won't send Danielle. We're going to keep her. No, keep her. No, that's a bad idea. Forget. Strike that. Strike that. Just ignore that back there.
The former one as well. And the attitude is, sit down and shut up. Well, I don't shut up. I think that there is a lot of frustration.
So no parallels?
No. I mean, I'd be blind if I didn't see what is occurring in the media.
How do you feel about being mocked by the Prime Minister of Canada and Liberal leaders, which he did, I believe, in Victoria, bringing your name up and the name of Premier Ford, but more so yourself, and making you the butt of jokes during the campaign?
Well, I've noticed this with progressive men, how much they talk about how much they support women until they meet a strong conservative woman. And so this is a pretty consistent type of approach that I've seen, not only from the current Prime Minister, but the former one as well. And the attitude is, sit down and shut up. Well, I don't shut up. I make sure that Albertans know exactly how I feel about issues, and I'm going to continue advocating on behalf of my province, whether he likes it or not.
Radio-Canada. Pierre Poilievre will be here tonight. Can you explain, just to go back to an earlier comment that you made, how is he in sync with the Trump administration?
Well, that's a question for him.
But do you see any parallel between him and Donald Trump, for instance, in their style of politics?
I would say that everybody in Canada, to a person, is opposed to tariffs, unfair tariffs against Canadian goods and services. And every one of us, no matter what political stripe, no matter what level of government, is working to try to get the U.S. president to honor the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement.
So no parallels?
No.
Mr. Poilievre being in sync with the Trump administration, how is that for Mr. Poilievre to answer? You're the one who said it. So are you kind of backtracking on that? And do you think your interventions have actually hurt Mr. Poilievre's chances at winning the election?
I'm focused on provincial politics and provincial policy, and I let the two political leaders who are front runners battle it out with themselves.
Okay, and on the Manning Center, can I just ask about the Strong and Free conference and whether you have any qualms about attending with, there's some members there who are close to the Trump administration, Robert Lighthizer, for instance, your keynote speaker. Or do you have any second thoughts about attending that conference, and if not, why?
Well, you engage in diplomacy by talking to people. And if there are people there who are influential on the U.S. administration, you bet I'm going to talk to them. I think that the former trade ambassador, having an understanding of what might lead to a breakthrough and getting us back to a constructive Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement, sounds like a pretty good conversation to have. And so I go there. I think I've gone every year for the last number of years, so I'm going to keep on going.
So how concerned are you about that and ballooning deficit? And were you wrong to declare a big win on Trump tariffs last week?
Well, if you look at what we were able to advocate for, we have zero tariffs on energy, zero tariffs on food, zero tariffs on, in fact, the vast majority of products that are covered by the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement, plus a commitment from the U.S. president to begin renegotiating that early rather than in 2026. There's still some work to do on steel and aluminum, on timber, and on autos, and I hope that that will be part of the comprehensive renegotiation. But we're 7 days in to our new budget, so I tend not to panic based on 7 days worth of data. We had a lot of variation last year. We have a worst case scenario budget.
I wanted to ask you about a new poll that says 3 in 10 Albertans want to leave Canada if Mark Carney's Liberals win this election. You've said that you won't lead a referendum, but where do you stand on this? Do you want Alberta to leave Canada?
Well, I want Canada to work. I want Canada to be able to meet its potential. I want for us to be able to build economic corridors. I want us to be able to develop all of our resources, from oil and gas all the way through to critical minerals and beyond. But I also want Canada to work for Alberta, and it hasn't for the last 10 years because of terrible policies by the Liberals. And so I put forward a list of 9 items that I think would allow for us to have a reset in our relationship with the Federation. depending on who wins in 3 weeks' time. And that stands today. Those are some very basic things if we want to actually move to that reality of making Canada an economic powerhouse and supporting Alberta in particular. So I really hope that we can get Canada on Team Alberta, because Team Alberta has always been on Team Canada.
Saying, warning people in the rest of Canada, a vote for Carney's Liberals is a vote for Western secession. Do you see it that way?
I think that there is a lot of frustration on the part of Albertans, and I think you see it. I mean, I'd be blind if I didn't see what is occurring in the media, on social media. I have to acknowledge that there's a lot of unhappiness on the part of Albertans in the way we've been treated by the Liberal government for the past 10 years. And unfortunately for the current Prime Minister, he seems to not be very clear about what it is he's going to do to reset that relationship, because he says different things in different parts of the province, different parts of the country, different things in English and French. And so I'm going to have a 6-month period after the election where I have a number of items that I put on the table early that I think need to be done to address the 10 years of economic devastation that the federal government has caused to our province, and I would hope no matter who wins that we'd be able to correct those things. But there's I judge people more by their action than by their words, and so I want to be able to see what happens after the next election, and then I'll gauge where Albertans are at that point.
No, you've stated obviously you are not a separatist, but do you think Canadians elsewhere outside Alberta should be concerned at what a Liberal victory, especially a Liberal majority government victory, would mean for a lot of people in Alberta? Because the emails I get is they're not concerned about that. They just think we're a bunch of self-entitled whiners. So and have written us off. So what are your thoughts about the fact that what should Canadians think at all about that national unity question?
I put on the table 9 things that I know that the federal government needs to do to reset its relationship with Alberta, and many of those things are necessary to reset the relationship with all of the provinces. If you go across the country, it's difficult to get anything built, any type of critical infrastructure. It's difficult to get any type of mining operations approved. You have not just 1 or 2 year timelines, you've got 10-year timelines to get things built and taken to market. And quite frankly, it's the federal government's job, under the trade and commerce power that they have, to facilitate that international access. So I would say that everyone should be concerned about the direction, and this is a very important election. Everybody should be concerned, should listen to the promises, and to see which of the candidates is actually going to unleash the economic power of every single province and every single region and every single industry. We just have had 10 years of experience with the Liberals, where they have done every possible thing they could to try to keep our oil and gas in the ground, or disincentivize investment, or chase away investment, or cancel investment. And I'm just here to say that ends, regardless of who becomes Prime Minister of Canada. And I think that as a measure of goodwill, addressing those 9 issues I put on the table would be a good start. So I'm going to judge it based on the actions of whoever happens to win on April the 28th.